4 agonizing days after Nancy vanished, Sheriff Nanos faced the media cameras. Reporters grilled him regarding that bloody entryway, the disguised prowler, and those extortion letters. Yet while discussing surveillance video, he dropped a singular bombshell remark that flew right past everyone. He casually mentioned the system lacked paid recording service, pivoting swiftly toward another topic. Not a single journalist probed deeper, nor did network pundits bother breaking it down. Through 45 days of nationwide hysteria, the media ignored it completely. So we are unpacking that exact detail today because its technological implications are huge, operationally and scientifically. It totally reshapes this entire case timeline. This fact begs a massive inquiry. Untouched for 45 days. The ultimate mystery remains, was the intruder already aware of that lapsed service prior to striking? Welcome to our deduction space, where undeniable facts rule. We must trace the data trail fully before dissecting the precise behavior of an unpaid security lens. That hardware quirk completely redefines offline signals. Right alongside a pair of verified weekend sightings prior to February first expose his surveillance awareness, explaining that massive 41-minute void. Go ahead and smash that follow button with alerts turned on immediately. Our channel relies strictly upon concrete paperwork alongside thoroughly vetted truths. We scrutinize scientifically backed data points alongside crucial inquiries demanded by sheer logic. Fresh breakdowns drop weekly, so toss this clip a thumbs up and share your thoughts below. Once you grasp the complete digital footprint, I need your perspective. Did the culprit exploit that billing gap intentionally on February 1st? Drop your theories below as we reconstruct everything from square one. At 84 years of age, this woman is widely known as the parent to renowned television host Nancy Guthrie. For over 50 years, she occupied a beautiful Catalina foothills estate nestled within Tucson, claiming ownership since the late 90s. Prior to this nightmare breaking loose, this lady enjoyed a peaceful existence inside her deeply familiar residence, reliably mailing out holiday greetings annually. Her weekends consisted of unfailing weekly morning worship services alongside regular evening meals shared with Annie. Her reality revolved around dependable comforts and gentle habits that nobody really notices until tragedy strikes. Certain medical conditions demanded strict everyday upkeep. She utilized a cardiac pacer. This pulse tracker beamed wireless statistics straight to her smartphone overnight. Plus, she utilized walking support alongside routine pills. Strong audio enhancers accompanied her waking hours, resting neatly beside her mobile device each evening. Lacking those earpieces meant absolute silence, completely muting any chatter, footsteps, or intrusive breaches indoors. As dusk fell on January 31st, 2026, her agenda was perfectly normal. She hailed a rideshare vehicle headed toward a lovely familial feast hosted by Annie. Detectives eventually located that chauffeur and scrutinized the vehicular recordings, spotting zero red flags or panic. A typical weekend bonding session wrapped up as her automated carport lifted at 9:48, shutting tight by 9:50. Law enforcement claims they presumed she went straight to sleep, an utter guess lacking any internal sensors or visual proof. No gadgets verified this timeline, resting purely upon that 9:50 evening bay closure. This remains the final verified trace of her existence before the absolute void took over. 4 dead hours passed without alarm, until exactly 1:47 on February 1st, 2026. When the front optics flatlined, the official narrative set in system died, perpetrator breached, victim vanished. A 45-day probe ensued, yet the commander uttered an extra technological tidbit during that media briefing, a detail completely altering the definition of an offline state. The public interpreted his mention of an expired billing plan as a basic excuse for missing visual evidence. Account lapsed, therefore filming ceased. Case closed. Nothing to see here, except an unpaid smart lens totally defies that logic. The hardware never gets stuck on a final frame, nor does it just black out idly. The chilling truth about this device, a secret the sheriff's tech squad whispered right before facing the cameras, is its endless, terrifying loop. Fresh video instantly crushes older clips through an unyielding mechanical cycle, creating a self-erasing digital circle that refreshes live. The equipment was never malfunctioning, nor was it ever turned off. This lens was actively filming while ruthlessly wiping out every single moment it captured right away. 60 seconds of video gets immediately swallowed by the next, leaving zero archives, backups, or retrieval options. A relentless digital shredder was operating non-stop right on Nancy Guthrie's front porch. Federal agents collaborated with Google technicians for 10 straight days, desperately trying to salvage whatever data survived after someone ripped the actual hardware off its bracket. Their exhaustive efforts yielded a mere 44 seconds of video. It was just leftover fragments that somehow avoided deletion right before the system completely died. Those 44 fleeting moments provided all the porch footage released to the world, revealing the disguised intruder, the knapsack, and the firearm strapped alongside. The foliage thrust towards the glass was all captured within those salvaged 44 seconds. Every remaining visual, spanning the long hours prior to the intruder arriving and that movement alert at 2:12 in the morning. Furthermore, any action on that porch beyond 1:47 in the morning is completely wiped. Nobody maliciously deleted these files. Rather, the equipment lacked an active plan and functioned precisely how unpaid systems operate. During the evening of Nancy Guthrie's abduction, her porch security setup captured absolutely nothing permanent enough to retrieve. Federal investigators, elite crime labs nationwide, and current cutting-edge software were completely useless against this relentless, instantaneous deletion process that required zero human interaction. That one casual remark from the sheriff should have immediately sparked a massive inquiry from the journalists in attendance. 45 days of national media coverage somehow completely ignored this critical question. Was the perpetrator aware? Here are the verified facts regarding this intruder's behavior leading up to February 1st, 2026. ABC News confirmed his shocking return. That federal snapshot depicting the disguised person on the porch without a bag wasn't captured on February 1st. It originated from an earlier timeline, proving the attacker visited the property beforehand. The perpetrator previously occupied that precise location, staring dead into the lens. And federal agents discovered more than just a solitary scouting trip. Authorities uncovered a terrifying routine. As investigators interviewed the community shortly after the kidnapping, they requested a highly targeted piece of evidence from the neighbors. Detectives specifically hunted for security clips recorded on January 11th and January 24th, skipping broad inquiries about generally suspicious neighborhood activities. They ignored random videos from last week, targeting 2 distinct Saturdays, exactly 6 and 2 weeks prior to the crime, proves the feds had an incredibly calculated motive for their search. They pinpointed something critical: a vehicle, a movement, or a digital footprint. A looming threat emerged during those previous weekends, directly linking back to the evening Nancy vanished, confirming the detectives were chasing a solid lead. Detectives targeted the exact time frame to investigate, with both events landing on Saturdays. These scouting missions perfectly mirrored the February 1st timeline, aligning precisely with the hours Nancy usually spent unwinding after her typical weekend activities. That exact schedule gave the predator a perfect opening family dinner, returning before 9:50 at night, then staying isolated. She streamed Sunday services, totally unaware of those prior weekend stalking incidents. The attacker targeted the property weeks before the kidnapping, fully exposed to a porch lens that hopelessly looped its recordings without saving a single shred of evidence. So let that sink in and rethink the scenario. An intruder stalks the property twice before striking, approaches the entryway, and stares right into the security system on multiple occasions. Then shows up on February 1st utterly equipped with face coverings, hand protection, lethal weapons, and a tactical bag for the assault. Could this phantom have perfectly calculated the system's fatal blind spot? That realization hardly demands a genius hacker's background. Anyone hanging around a porch staring at a Nest device, especially a predator who studied residential alarm setups, and this specific assailant obviously studied her house beforehand, will easily notice the glaring technical contrast between an actively monitored system and an offline one. Simply by watching the completely different status lights, the movement tracking triggers uniquely, while the hardware itself responds distinctly when approached. Devices constantly sending out data to secure servers act nothing like solitary units trapped inside isolated, self-deleting cycles. Understanding this requires zero professional background. Anybody with an internet connection could uncover these equipment flaws after a few hours of basic online digging. If a predator wanted to breach that guarded house without getting caught, they easily could have dug up those exact security flaws. our perpetrator was definitely lurking around the area, having boldly stared down that very lens on 2 separate occasions. During those 2 scouting trips, he studied the system's blind spots before showing up loaded for bear on February 1st with dark intentions. Did this intruder somehow realize the recording service had lapsed? A crucial detail investigators haven't publicly addressed in 45 days. That fleeting tech footnote the sheriff casually glossed over might actually be the golden key to unraveling this whole mystery. At exactly 1:47 a.m., that front lens suddenly flatlined. It didn't simply get deactivated right then. The system had already been looping and erasing itself for hours. Judging by that salvaged 44-second clip, the prowler violently ripped the gadget off the wall. At 1:47 a.m., the battery died instantly, meaning whatever the cache caught just before destruction became its final memory. Exactly 25 minutes later, at 2:12 a.m., the Smart Hub's backend unexpectedly registered movement, even completely detached from the wall. The internal detectors kept firing off alerts. They tracked something stirring by the entryway, though absolutely no visual evidence survived. A hidden digital footprint proves somebody was lingering by the porch 25 minutes after the blackout. Yet the exact trigger remains a total mystery. Those porch events between 1:47 and 2:12 a.m. are completely lost to history. The nightmare following 2:12 a.m. stays murky until 2:28 a.m., 41 minutes post-blackout, when Nancy's heart implant suddenly dropped its digital signal. That medical implant constantly updated her sleeping cell phone via wireless link. Her mobile sat undisturbed on the bedside table. As always, the handset never budged. So the signal dropped strictly because the perpetrators physically dragged her body out of the required wireless range. 41 crucial minutes separated the final visual frame from her heart monitor's sudden crash. That is 41 minutes of absolute silence, yielding zero visual, acoustic, or digital clues from within those walls. 41 minutes provides ample opportunity to breach a residence and navigate pitch black, unknown corridors, to hunt down a frail, sleeping 84-year-old victim who was utterly deaf without her specialized earpieces, to violently subdue any struggling and wrap her tightly in blankets. A former federal investigator reviewed the porch splatter, determining those crimson stains dropped vertically without any disruption patterns. This proves she wasn't walking, meaning a duo had to carefully maneuver her unconscious weight out the entrance and into a nearby getaway car. For 45 days, detectives only chased leads that materialized long after that gap closed. Those dark hand coverings discovered 2 miles out, the genetic material left indoors. Plus, that suspicious sedan caught on a neighbor's lens at 2:36 a.m., 2.5 miles away. The extortion letters and every other clue surfaced later, completely overshadowed by that vacant 41-minute black hole. Unlocking those 41 vacant minutes is the key, yet the timeline remains utterly barren. Even the security lens staring right at the entryway failed to preserve a single frame of the horror it witnessed. Yet another chilling gap exists in this timeline. One the public and experts have mostly ignored: the silence following the device failure. At 2:28 a.m. on February 1st, 2026, it permanently dropped offline. At 12:03 p.m., 9 hours and 35 minutes later, dispatch got the call. 9 hours and 35 minutes passed between her final digital pulse and the emergency dispatch, which had absolutely nothing to do with familial neglect. Her loved ones cared, but there was simply no warning system to trigger a panic. No high-tech safeguard existed to realize a senior citizen had vanished from her sheets, meaning the heart monitor severed its connection without a whisper. Her mobile sat untouched upstairs. Her vehicle never left the driveway, and her daily pills remained sitting on the island. Every single personal item remained perfectly untouched, yet no smart gadget was programmed to flag an empty house. The ultimate red flag didn't come from motion sensors, an observant locale, or any expensive alarm gear wired into the property. It was actually a live broadcast. Without fail, she tuned into her congregation's weekly digital sermon to chat with friends, boasting a perfect attendance record. When her username failed to pop up on February 1st, a fellow parishioner immediately sensed trouble and reached out to her child, Annie. Failing to reach her mom, Annie dialed 911, triggering the investigation. A simple internet worship gathering she had loyally logged into for years became the key to discovering the crime. They vanished with Nancy Guthrie, leaving a 9-hour and 35-minute ghost trail before the alarm even sounded. Crossing into Mexico from Tucson takes barely 60 miles. Give a kidnapper 10 hours, and they can blast way past a 60-mile radius. When cruisers finally rolled up at 12:15 in the afternoon, the perpetrator was already 10 hours gone. Think about how her Sunday habits tie directly into those scouting trips. Nancy joining her online congregation wasn't exactly top secret, yet she didn't broadcast it either. It remained an intimate, highly predictable weekly ritual. You only uncover that by staking out a target repeatedly, tracking those lazy weekend mornings when she stayed indoors, completely unaware and vulnerable. That exact intel matches what a stalker would glean from 2 distinct Saturday drop-ins. 3 weeks. Then just 1 week prior to the kidnapping. January 11th and January 24th were both Saturdays preceding her regular Sunday service broadcast. Anyone lurking around her block on those weekend nights witnessed the exact same routine. She returned by 9:50 at night, followed by a quiet Sunday dawn. 0 guests meant nobody had cause for alarm until her screen stayed blank during morning worship. Federal agents deliberately requested video captures from January 11th alongside the 24th. 2 weekends yielded 2 chances to map out the schedule, enabling that 9-hour head start, proving this absolutely wasn't random. Analyzing the complete operational setup, including the doorbell's active subscription, striking at that exact moment to exploit a 9-hour blind spot demanded intimate familiarity with her property. They understood their victim perfectly, certain that nobody would panic on a Sunday until the sermon started without her logging on. A predator spent weeks meticulously tracking her every move. This brings up a deeply unsettling theory regarding that lapsed video recording plan. Suppose the attacker realized the doorbell lacked cloud storage, figuring that out during earlier scouting runs and building it into his attack strategy. Then that 44-second fragment the Feds salvaged wasn't a blunder. It simply represented the absolute edge of his miscalculations. He understood the lens constantly looped. What he entirely missed was that faint digital echoes from right before shutoff could linger on the hardware, taking tech experts at Google 10 agonizing days to extract. That breakthrough, the exact tape half the country spent 6 weeks dissecting, was probably his sole strategic oversight. Every other angle proves he was incredibly well prepared. Striking during the dead of night, leading into Sunday perfectly leveraged that 9-hour buffer before her online service. Those verified Saturday sightings indicate he spent considerable time profiling her late-week behavior. Ex-federal crisis expert Chip Massey noted a stuffed rucksack makes 0 sense for a burglary, because loading up on gear beforehand proves the ultimate prize was stealing a human being rather than pawning electronics. The real breach happened through the rear patio, completely avoiding the monitored main entrance. A crucial detail retired federal agent Jennifer Coffindaffer spotted when detectives completely bypassed the front door to replace the backyard locks instead, broadcasting to seasoned investigators exactly which threshold the intruder compromised first. Sabotaging the security fed into a broader scheme. Wrecking a nearby power junction effectively killed web access for the whole block, blinding any remote storage lenses that depended on active Wi-Fi to save their clips. But the main entryway required a hands-on approach since it hoarded files internally regardless of paid plans. Explaining why you can see the attacker physically tampering with the unit on tape. This shows a dual-pronged attack designed to exploit every electronic blind spot. Pulling off that degree of technological sabotage proves the culprit thoroughly researched the system's exact limits. However, their sloppy groundwork on the scene heavily implies these operators were far from elite mercenaries. Finding crimson stains on the patio, which lab results matched to Nancy, points directly to a chaotic fight the assailants completely underestimated. Former Fed Maureen O'Connell examined the splatter trajectory, concluding the victim was dragged outside, not forced out at gunpoint. Taking 41 minutes for a snatch and grab that elites finish in 10 is ridiculous, especially with a pistol shoved so carelessly into the kidnapper's waistband that Massey joked he was practically begging someone to snatch it. The only logical way to reconcile these conflicting clues from high-level strategy. This wasn't a masterclass in crime. The masterminds who orchestrated this nightmare refused to get their hands dirty, dumping the physical assault onto totally unequipped thugs. An informant intimately familiar with the house layout, the surveillance blind spots, and her routines, combined with that crucial 9-hour gap on Sunday, handed over the exact blueprint needed to pull off this plot. Whoever showed up on Camino Real at 1:32 in the morning held the playbook, yet completely lacked the tactical expertise to vanish without a trace. Ex-federal investigator Jennifer Coffendafer hasn't wavered once while publicly profiling the exact type of mole who likely leaked this data. Think about a regular hired hand on the grounds, perhaps the pool guy, the yard crew, a repairman, or basically any trusted contractor swinging by often enough to study the floor plan, map out the alarm setups, and track her schedules across countless shifts, perhaps even casually spilling those secrets without realizing the deadly consequences. Federal agents managed to scrape low-resolution snapshots off the motion-triggered security lenses ringing the estate. Lenses watching the pool, the backyard, alongside the side pathways captured clear shots of people loitering before the kidnapping went down. And authorities already know their names. Detectives already brought them in for questioning, though law enforcement remains completely tight-lipped about whether any are still considered active suspects. Officials did confirm one chilling detail: that blended genetic profiles scraped from Nancy's living room triggered absolutely 0 hits within the National Criminal Registry. Whoever left their biological signature behind on that scene possesses a completely spotless major criminal record across the entire United States. While that specific avenue of inquiry hit a dead end, the scientific hunt is far from over. 45 agonizing days since Nancy Guthrie vanished without a trace. The official case file looks exactly like this. Experts down in Deerfield Beach, Florida, are currently tearing apart that tangled biological evidence at an advanced genetic testing facility. Scientists successfully isolated male chromosomes from the swab, definitively proving it wasn't left by the victim or any of her regular house guests. As mentioned earlier, the federal database came back completely empty-handed. Detectives promised to unleash cutting-edge ancestral tracking methods the absolute second they successfully isolate the perpetrator's individual strand from the rest of the mess. The industry's top ancestral sleuth, C.C. Moore over at Parabon Nanolabs, recently weighed in on this exact mystery during a public statement. She guaranteed they will unmask him, predicting a time frame anywhere from a couple of weeks to a few short months. This ancestral strategy completely bypasses the need for the actual culprit to have ever surrendered their own saliva to a testing company. All it takes is one distant cousin, a sister, or an uncle mailing a spit tube to commercial sites like 23andMe or Ancestry. The moment that single connection flags against our crime scene swab, an entire lineage branches out, pointing directly toward a specific neighborhood. From that pinpointed town, a single identity emerges, which is exactly the brilliant tactic that finally caught the Golden State Killer after all those years. It is the exact same method that linked Brian Kohberger to the Idaho College tragedy via his relative's testing kit. Meanwhile, analysts are scrubbing mobile pings from 3 highly suspicious weekends: January 11th, January 24th, and February 1st, hunting for digital footprints, as federal agents meticulously track which specific smartphones pinged towers in the Catalina foothills to find the one device present every time. That distinctive 25-liter Ozark Trail rucksack caught on camera is sold exclusively at Walmart stores. Federal authorities secured every single register receipt for those bags 6 weeks ago. They hauled in and scrutinized security tapes from absolutely every Walmart across the greater Tucson region covering the time frame leading up to February 1st. Ex-Bureau investigator Steve Hooper, who previously ran the entire Phoenix Command Center, explained exactly how this critical stage of the manhunt will play out. Everything hinges on flipping one solid witness, so agents are currently squeezing every single underworld contact they have on the payroll. They are basically stalling until whoever holds the key realizes that carrying the crushing guilt of a 45-day cover-up isn't worth passing up $1.2 million. Between the family's $1 million, the Bureau's $100,000, and Crime Stoppers chipping in, that massive bounty topping $1.2 million remains completely untouched. Listen, crucial questions still linger untouched, and our furious community absolutely must keep demanding transparent answers. Number 1 revolves entirely around the surveillance cloud service and the intruder's technical awareness. Did cyber experts actually check if someone snooped around Nancy's network to see if her recording plan was active prior to February 1st? If a hacker parked outside probed her specific lens model or Nest firewall by exploiting the home hub, scanning visible Wi-Fi signals, or running remote exploits, those keystrokes would absolutely generate a traceable server log. Did detectives uncover that digital footprint? Secondly, regarding the neighborhood surveillance from January 11th and January 24th that federal agents specifically requested, what exactly did those clips reveal? And could they conclusively match those earlier prowlers to the shadowed figure seen striking on February 1st? Did the phantom intruder stalk her on foot or roll up in a getaway car? Have detectives actually flagged any suspicious vehicles from those dates lacking a registered owner? Number 3, that massive 9-hour blackout and the dead heart monitor. When that heart monitor flatlined at 2:28 in the morning, why didn't the medical service trigger an automatic warning? If an alarm rang, who answered and what happened? Nobody has publicly addressed this. Leading us to point 4, the inside tip and maintenance crew. The feds heavily interrogated landscapers, pool cleaners, and anyone with legal access to her estate. Have detectives actually linked any of these everyday workers to the creepy phantom haunting the Ring camera footage? Did they uncover any shady texts or sudden cash payouts tying the maintenance staff to the February 1st intruders? Number 5, the extremely suspicious. Pinpointed security blackout. If the glitch only blinded lenses, pointing directly at Nancy's house, but left the neighborhood grid completely fine, that completely rules out a random power failure. That screams of a targeted hit. Did detectives ever confirm if the blackout was surgically pinpointed or totally random? Hit the comments with your theories. Every single clue matters. 45 agonizing days have passed since Nancy Guthrie vanished from her peaceful Tucson, Arizona home in the Catalina foothills. Consider that single haunting detail the sheriff casually mentioned during one press conference. That one passing remark might actually be the smoking gun tying everything together, a security lens, basically eating its own footage live. We're hunting a phantom who stalked that exact lens twice, before returning fully geared up on February 1st. There is a massive 41-minute void right at the center of this timeline, completely blank because the owner never paid for premium cloud storage. If he somehow realized the security system wasn't saving clips, then he already knew the main entrance was a total blind spot. Understanding her Sunday schedule meant he had a full 9-hour cushion to strike. Assuming he already pinpointed the exact weak spot hidden around the back patio, he arrived heavily armed with inside intel, spoon-fed by somebody legally working there for weeks. 3 lethal secrets. Weaponized in perfect sequence, a dead camera, a daily habit, and a weak back door. You don't get that intimate intel from just cruising past the driveway once. This level of precision demands relentless stalking, lurking, and absolute obsession. The genetic markers are being processed. Family trees are being built. Mobile pings are mapped. Detectives are aggressively hunting down the receipt for that specific bag. Yet, hiding somewhere inside that tight circle who deeply understood Nancy's home layout, her daily habits, and her dead camera, someone who watched her Sunday morning rituals, is sitting on a devastating secret, one literally worth $1.2 million. Nancy Guthrie is 84. She uses a heart monitor and urgently requires daily medication. She has been stripped of that life-saving medical care for 45 terrifying days. This is a beloved mom and grandma, a sweet lady who spent decades filling that familiar home with love, living peacefully in a community where everybody adored her. She deserves the hard truth. Her grieving family demands closure. That single lingering question sparked by the sheriff, the one every reporter completely missed, must be hammered relentlessly until this case is finally cracked. Did this phantom know the cloud storage was turned off? Because if he did, the guy we've watched on loop for 6 weeks wasn't just some lucky amateur. We are tracking a calculated mastermind who perfectly understood exactly how much of his face he could safely flash on that lens. The ultimate truth lies inside the evidence. It has been there since day one. If you hold any secret regarding Nancy Guthrie's terrifying disappearance, contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov. You can also dial Pima County Sheriff at 520-351-41900. You can absolutely drop these leads from total secrecy, hiding anywhere on the planet. Her family offers $1 million for her safe return. The FBI adds $100,000. Total rewards exceed $1.2 million. Smash that subscribe button for the investigation room, turn on alerts, and comment right now. Are you convinced this prowler figured out the subscription loophole before stepping onto the porch? Does that dark realization force you to completely rethink his creepy footage? Nancy Guthrie needs answers. The relentless justice she deserves is exactly what these chilling facts demand we deliver. This story teaches a painful but necessary truth. Evil does not always force its way into our lives with chaos. Sometimes it enters quietly, through routine, familiarity, and the false comfort of normal days. That is why one of the greatest lessons here is the importance of awareness. We often believe danger looks obvious, but in reality, it can hide behind small signs, strange moments, or details we are tempted to ignore. Real safety begins when we stop dismissing what feels slightly off. It also reminds us that love must be active. Loving our parents, grandparents, and vulnerable family members means more than checking in once in a while. It means protecting their privacy, paying attention to their routines, helping them stay secure, and taking every concern seriously. Care is not only emotional, it is practical. It is intentional. It is present. Another powerful lesson is that communities matter. A watchful neighbor, a timely question, or one person speaking up can make a difference bigger than anyone imagines. Silence and delay can deepen tragedy, but awareness and action can save lives. In the end, this is more than a story about fear. It is a reminder to value the people we love, guard them with wisdom, and never underestimate the meaning of the smallest warning signs.